A blind man was left out in the cold Buffalo streets by Border Patrol agents. He later died. His name was Nurul Amin Shah Alam. He was a 56-year-old Rohingya refugee who didn't speak English. Uh, he was taken into custody by Border Patrol last year because he ended up at this woman's porch. He bought himself a curtain rod from a shop. He used as a cane to walk around, and he was trying to get back home. He ended up at this woman's house, and because he wasn't able to communicate with her, she called the police, and they got involved and sent him. His immigration status came up, and he got sent to Border Patrol, and he was in custody for a year. Um, he took a plea deal. He was released, but he was dropped off at a Tim Hortons in Buffalo. His family wasn't notified. His attorney wasn't notified. And if the Border Patrol had bothered to do any research, they would have known that his family were like 5 miles away. They didn't live in the area anymore. This was his old neighborhood. So he spent some time strolling around the old neighborhood in super cold weather, and he died. His body was found on Tuesday, the 24th. And it just, it was just, I don't even know what to say, honestly. Like, this guy had the absolute and utter, every disadvantage you could think of in this country. And not a lot of stuff in the news makes me cry or almost cry, but this one does it. He didn't know how to use a phone. Nobody knew where he was. Everybody was searching for him. They even opened a missing persons report, and the investigation was handled poorly because they thought that he was in ICE custody. And I just, I don't know. He was found 5 days after he was released. Um, and it really does eat at my heart. And it's personal for me because I am blind. I'm not a refugee. And I don't bring it up very often because that's really not the point of this channel, but I'm a blind guy. And just to think, this poor guy who didn't know the language, who couldn't use a phone, who had no knowledge of where he was, to just, be let off at some random coffee shop and told, well, you got to get home. And then nobody knew where he was. He didn't even know where he was. And, I just, the amount of anxiety and panic that he must have been feeling at the time must have been insurmountable. And You know, I just really lose faith in the human race when I hear stories like this. 'Cause on the one hand, he wasn't able to communicate, but on the other hand, like, nobody offered him a warm place to stay, at least for a little while, just so he wouldn't freeze to death. Like that, somebody, a whole bunch of somebody's overlooked that. They were just like, oh well, there's this random guy walking around. Let me call the police. Or, they didn't do anything. Well, screw it. It's just a strange guy walking around the street. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the guy was Asian. And I hate to say it, but there's a lot of racism in this country. And I just can't stand the fact that this guy was just left out. And by Border Patrol, too. Trump's Border Patrol. He was only going to hire the best people, but somehow they missed the mark on this one. Of course, it was all probably intentional, um, at most, or at least incompetence. I just, and to imagine that I could have been in this guy's place if I had been born in the wrong country, born into the wrong circumstances, not having access to technology the way I did, so that I wouldn't be able to use a phone, not able to speak English, which is one of the, you know, lingua franca's most popular languages in this country, in the world, actually. Uh, I just, I have a hard time expressing how horrible, how just disgusting, immoral this kind of nonsense is. These people, this guy was disabled. Like, We should be treating this guy with compassion. He fled a genocide in Myanmar just to die on the streets of Buffalo. I hope I've been able to express myself. I have a hard time with stories like this. I just hope that I and all the people around me can do our parts to take care of each other and make sure that a tragedy like this, an intentional tragedy like this, doesn't happen again. Unfortunately, there are probably going to be more stories like this in the future from our wonderful administration. Anyway, yeah, um, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.